Awesome. Well, first off, I just want to say a massive thank you for taking part in this interview and taking time of day to answer my questions. But you've been into games and esports since your early teens. What was it like balancing your passion for esports and your university life? Considering you set up the University of Birmingham's Esports Society yourself, how were your priorities balanced?
Pretty badly, to be honest, at university. I dedicated way more time to gaming than I should have done. I kind of was like that through school as well, so it just carried over. Obviously, this is something I know you've got a question on later, but didn't realize that I was dealing with undiagnosed ADHD, which definitely just made me focus on what I enjoyed doing and not what I needed to be doing.
Mm.
So yeah, my uni life, or my university work, I should say, suffered a lot. My social life bloomed, and my kind of esports passion bloomed a lot. And I put loads of time into it at university, much to the detriment of my work. Um, I'd say it's worked out in the long run. I definitely wouldn't advise other people to do that. But yeah, mostly at uni, it was kind of playing at the time because I was playing for the university team. Obviously, there was a decent amount of time went into the esports society, but when it was kind of small like that, I guess it was not so much work 'cause it was kind of just maybe a social every month or few weeks, the occasional event here and there. Because esports, I mean, we're only like 20 people actually. It isn't quite where it is today. Well, God, we're talking like nine years ago or so. So yeah, it really hadn't quite got the hold it did today has today.
Um, so, as you said, your passion really stemmed from esports and particularly League of Legends. Having
Yeah.
competed in Newell and NSC at university, as well as some other amateur teams. How did you make the change from being a player at university to the other areas of esports you've been a part of?
Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously it started through meeting people through the NUEL. Like we were playing against the same team, same people week in, week out. I finally actually started to get good at the game because I think when I started at university, I was like, I think it was gold when I went, and ended up kind of being mid diamond by the end. So I was kind of looking for that next step of competition, I guess, is the best way to put it. Because I'm a competitive person, I've always want to do the best at anything I do. And outside of esports, I was also pretty competitive at hockey, field hockey. So it was just a natural, like, yeah, I want to see what's out there, play for a proper team. So started going to Insomnia Gaming Festival, played on some like kind of pickup teams there. Um, then through that you just meet people, I guess. You know, you start chatting, meeting people in like the wider UK esports scene, not just at the university. Um, yeah, just got myself on a couple of amateur teams. I think the best we ever did qualified for the ESL UK Prem with a couple of friends and some extra players. Um, then kind of towards, I guess the end of that must have been like 2017, 2018 actually. I kind of realized I wasn't gonna get anywhere with being a player. I really wanted to. I really wanted to be a professional player. I think as a lot of people do when they first start. But I just kind of knew I wasn't gonna make the cut. So kind of looked for other ways to be involved in esports because I love the people. I love, you know, I still religiously followed esports. So I just wanted to be involved. And I've always been pretty good at organizing things. I guess kind of stemming from the uni society stuff. So I was like, oh well, being a team manager seems like a good idea. So I had a couple of stints, first with a team called Wind and Rain as a manager, and then with the later team called Darkspawn, um, which led to me meeting Mark, who I founded the UKEL with. So it was kind of a transition away from being realizing that I wasn't going to be a player, a professional player. It wasn't going to earn me many money, and if I wanted to stay involved, especially career-wise, moving into backroom staff of some capacity seemed like the obvious choice. And the first stage I really did with that was team manager. It's just the opportunity was there.
Awesome. Well, as you said, being in team management has led you to setting up the UKEL in 2019. But did you ever expect the UKEL to turn out how it has?
So obviously there was always the hope that it did really well. You know, wouldn't have set it up otherwise if it didn't. But I think it definitely by the end exceeded my expectations, my initial expectations. Because I think we ran for 2 years or four splits, and you know we started. I remember our first broadcast, and it was literally maybe 20, 30 people watching at peak. The broadcasting itself was pretty dire. It's like we had the most basic overlay, directed camera, and we basically just watched the games. That was it. But to go to the end where we, I think, peaked around like 550 viewers, we, regularly having like really good casters on our lineup as well. I mean, that's probably my favorite part of it is there's about three people who've gone on from kind of starting at the UKL to playing, sorry, casting on the LEC. There's Jamada, there's Alex, and oh god, I've forgotten everyone's names now. It's embarrassing. I might have to cut this out. Yeah. Then God, I've completely lost my train of thought there. Sorry. Where was that? UKL. Yeah, where did we come from? Yeah, so obviously having a partnership, well, I say partnership, we worked in collaboration with Riot and DreamHack. It became the official starting point for UK League of Legends. You had to go through us if you wanted to play in the UKLC, and then obviously later on the NLC and stuff. So yeah, it really turned out probably better than I initially expected. I think the shame was that it actually could have been so much more had it been able to continue.
But obviously you're now running freelance, but you acquired your first paid job in esports as London United's esports manager. What was the initial feeling of knowing that you were making it in the industry that you loved, considering you first entered the industry when there are very few full-time paid jobs around?
It was a huge. Firstly, it was a relief actually. That was because I'd kind of just finished university, because university took me a long time. Again, I can talk about it a bit more later with the ADHD stuff. And I was really thinking like, oh, I do want to stay involved in esports, but having to face the reality that I might just have to go down the more traditional job route, with probably in engineering, because that's what my degree was in. So firstly, that was a huge relief. But secondly, I guess, yeah, I was really, really excited, because this was kind of the stepping stone, I guess. I feel most people fall at the hurdle of getting from voluntary or like the occasional freelance work to a full-time job. Of course, there isn't that many of them available. And to be honest, there still isn't so many available. There's so many people competing for them is the problem. So yeah, really, really happy, and it kind of made me realize like, yeah, I can actually do this. I just need to work hard, keep putting the effort in. It might not come straight away, but I'm sure I can make it if I keep doing those things.
But as you mentioned a couple of times, you have recently been diagnosed with ADHD, as well as having a fair few hobbies on the side. Has any part of you struggled with being overwhelmed since your original passion of esports turned into a very hands-on full-time career?
Yeah, definitely yes. It's obviously been much easier since being diagnosed, because I have medication that helps me in that regard. So it's a lot easier to balance multiple priorities, I guess. Definitely prior to that, I really struggled. And I know the first half of my job with London United, I wasn't diagnosed yet, and that was a major struggle. And I remember my boss at the time saying, like, within about 2 weeks to the month after I got diagnosed, he was like, everything's changed with you. Like, it's so obvious. Like, you're doing so much better. It was like a night and day sort of scenario. These days, I do struggle when I'm away working. For example, I've just come back from Copenhagen and Rio for 3 weeks. I struggle a little bit more to keep up with friends at home. Because I'm so focused on my job. That can be hard sometimes. Yeah, and finding time for hobbies as well can be difficult when there's a lot going on. Sometimes you really have to make a conscious choice to set time aside to be like, right, I'm going to do this today, because if I don't, I'm just going to sit here and watch YouTube or play games or do something, rather than being productive. So yeah, there's definitely times, and like everything in life, you always learn throughout your life. So I just want to keep being better week by week, month by month, and so on, and it'll get better for sure.
And finally, you've had your hand in almost everything in esports, whether it be playing, casting, and even working tournament operations, just to name a few of them, before you finally settled in management. What would you say to anyone who can't seem to find their footing in esports, whether it be because they aren't sure what road to go down or they're struggling progressing?
I guess the first thing is believe in yourself. If you know you've got the ability to do it, I can say it's difficult, but keep working. The biggest thing is the longer you're involved, the more likely your chances are of finally getting that break you need. And unfortunately, esports can be a bit like that at the moment, where you can spend years volunteering or waiting, and just for that like one big chance. And I guess then once you do get that big chance, you really have to nail it. What I would say the biggest thing, and I actually said this, or I say it to a lot of people, a lot of students, is that networking is the biggest thing that I probably didn't realize so much in my early days, which would have helped me a lot more. These days, it's something that actually comes quite naturally to me. Back in the past, it definitely didn't. And a lot of people don't realize that networking doesn't have to be reaching out to people on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be being direct with people in person. It can be as simple as following the right people on Twitter and engaging with them. Even if they don't necessarily engage with you back to start with, obviously don't be disheartened. Just seeing your name can be enough that in 1 year's time, they're like, oh, I remember that person because from this thing. And then that literally can be the difference between finding a job and not finding one. So just making your presence known, building a good reputation. The esports scene might seem big to people when they're starting, but I guarantee you it's actually absolutely tiny, especially the further up you go. I mean, I see the same probably 100 people at every single event I go to, give or take. Your reputation precedes you, and it does become known. So, making sure that you have a good rep is very important. Yeah, network, keep working as hard as possible. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, everyone will make it one day.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you very much for taking part in this interview, and I'm sure we'll see you very soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Cheers.